So Gary was an alto player.
So Gary was the alto player, and he was already like bebopping. This guy was playing. And I already knew about him, so I was already a little bit, intimidated because he was on a whole nother level, man. And I'm trying to hang. And so we finished one tune. We finished the tune, played a couple of tunes, and he stops and he says to the guitar player, he says, "Hey, Steve," his buddy Steve's a guitar. He points at me. He doesn't look at me. He points at me. He goes, "Hey, this guy sounds like Zoo Sims."
Oh, that's great.
So I was going for guests, but Zoot, I'll take Zoot. Zoot's
Yeah,
cool.
Zoot is good.
At least at least I knew I was at least in the ballpark. You know what I mean?
Did you get to hear Zoot? He was.
Oh, of course. I love Zoot, man.
Have you heard him live as well?
Oh, many times, of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
Al Cohn.
I didn't get to know him like I wanted to, because he was a real character, you know what I mean? He used to hang out at the China Song. You remember the China Song?
I remember the China Song in Midtown. I used to hang out at the China Song with Al Cohn and Al's father.
Yeah.
Who was a comedian, who had been a comedian.
Oh, well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, Joe's grandfather.
Oh,
Joe.
His dad. Joe's a good pal of mine. Boy. I just love Joe. Man. We played in Al Gray's band together, and
okay.
And Joe's one of my favorite people in the
world.
He's
the gem. There's not two of them.
That's a show right there, man.
That's it, complete and in himself. Yep. No admission. Just right. He's right there the whole show. But Al and his father, his father had all these great one-liners, and that's where all those great.
Oh well, now it makes perfect sense now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I'd that's funny. I didn't know that. His father was an old vaudeville guy, right?
Right. And Al had all these great little one-line things. The guy on the ledge with an alto.
Oh, I heard you tell that story about Bird Lives, don't you?
Yeah. That's an Al Cohn.
We were backstage. You and I played it years ago. We played at the Highline Ballroom, some kind of benefit
for the tsunami victims of Japan.
And we were in the back, just BSing, waiting to go on. And you told the don't jump, don't Bird Lives, don't jump.
Yeah, right. Who's Bird? Jump. Yeah, that was.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he had Yeah, well, there was
That's pretty funny. Well, yeah,
those guys were.
They were great. They were great. I got to hear this. So we were lucky, Bob. We got to hear a lot of these guys in person, and that's. I'm glad we came up when we did.
Yeah. So what was Sonny? I mean, I've gotten to know Sonny pretty well through the years.
Yeah. I got to know him. Like I said, I copied some of that music for the concerto that he did many years back in the 80s. In fact, Paul hooked me up with that. And it's funny because I was glad I wasn't home when he called me for the gig, because we had, the old answering machines. He said, "This is Sonny Rollins." So I thought it was one of my friends playing a joke on me.
I also had a similar experience that way.
Yeah.
Mike Wolf used to like to call me up.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, it's Sonny, and this and that. And one day, I think Mike had done that recently at that time.
Yeah.
And the phone rang, and it's like, "Hey, it's Sonny," and I'm like, "Mike,
yeah,
enough is enough already.
The jig's up." Yeah.
Yeah, that's enough. I mean, that's it was funny at first. I think maybe we might be overdoing it. No, it's Sonny.
It's really
funny. Yeah,
it was really funny. Yeah.
So,
yeah. He's a big baseball fan too, Sonny.
Yeah.
We used to talk about the Mets because at that time they were good. That was in 86, 87.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I was glad I got to know him a little bit, man. You start off listening to these records and then you meet these guys in person and then you get to be friends with some of them. It blows my mind sometimes. And it really.
Yeah, I had the same feeling, I was just like, I mean, where I'm actually we're friends. When my daughter was
Yeah,
born, he sent flowers, and
yeah, it's
we.
beautiful. Yes, sure.
So
Yeah.
you got to know Jackie.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
boy. Talk about one of your heroes, man. He's one of my all time heroes, and I got to know him a little bit through Paul and I got to know Jackie over the years, and
tell me about. I have my own experience with Jackie, which is just wonderful. And in
yeah.
fact, right before we started talking today, I was listening to Swing, Swang, Swinging,
Oh man, there you
and
go.
you
Let's
know,
face the music and dance.
let's face the music and dance, and one of the nicer versions of "I Love You."
Oh man,
And
what's new? What's
what's
new?
new? That's a
I'll take romance. Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh, I know that.
Stablemate.
What's that? It's Stablemates. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just did. As I said, I'm writing this book of memoirs and everything,
Yeah.
and to Children of the Night. And it's little vignettes, little sketches about people that I knew. And I just had finished my Jimmy Garrison chapter last week. And I was thinking, I got Jimmy was actually my first band. Jimmy and I became
Really?
very good friends. Yeah, I was the last person to ever play with Jimmy. I was in his house a couple nights before he died. But
Wow. When did he pass?
he passed in 19. I think it was maybe 75 or 76. He
Wow.
was 42. I remember that. I'm bad with years,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
was.
he's on that swing swang swinging. He's the bass player.
Yeah, he's the bass player on that. And
Yeah.
there's a few things people don't realize that Jimmy was. I mean, of course, he was great with the Coltrane band, the quartet. But people don't
Yeah.
realize that he had done that stuff with with Jackie. Also, he's on this fantastic Benny Carter record, Further Definitions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Hawk and Rouse and Benny and Phil, and the rhythm
Oh, is
section.
that Jimmy Garrison on bass?
That's Jimmy Garrison with Dick Katz and old Papa Joe Jones
I know that. I didn't
and
realize
Freddie
that was
Green.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great record, man. Yeah.
and there's a couple of Tristano things he's on.
Interesting.
And
Very
people didn't
interesting.
realize what a broad range
Yeah.
that Jimmy had, and part of the
Wow.
space between the
Yeah.
notes. He was
Yeah.
such a master of understanding.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he put the swing swang.
Oh,
He
no
put
doubt.
that out there all the time.
No doubt. No doubt.
But
Wow.
I got to know Jackie when we did this Alto Summit thing in Paris, and I got to just have 2 or 3 real good days where I got
Oh,
to.
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that record. You know, turned me on to that record, Paul Gonzalez Jr. And
Oh, well, I didn't make a record with that, but I mean, maybe they did.
no, Paul Gonzalez he turned me on to that CD, that CD that Alto Man is. Oh, you're not on that? I
I'm
thought.
not on that. Well, there was an Alto Summit
Oh, that's
in
okay.
Paris. That was a 6 alto concert
Yeah.
with Phil and Jackie and Frank Morgan. I got C sharp over there,
Oh, yeah. I remember C
and
Sharp.
and
Sure.
Vince Herring, who replaced McPherson at the last minute, and me with
Right.
Walter Davis Jr. and Percy Heath and Roy Haynes.
It's nice.
And for those couple of days, I got to really get next to Jackie.
Yeah.
I had the wonderful experience of being. We were staying in the same hotel, so we took a limousine from the rehearsal at La Villette to Paris,
Yeah.
which was normally about 45 minutes or an hour away, but we got stuck in traffic. So I had over 2 hours of just talking to Jackie
There
and
you
picking his
go.
brains about everything from intonation
Oh man.
to Bud Powell. And,
Yeah.
so I love to hear experiences with him. Jackie said to me, he said, "Oh man, you're an alto player who's playing tenor on alto like me."
Exactly right. That's exactly. And some of those records, you listen carefully. To me, he sounds like Dexter on the alto, man. His feel.
Yeah, well, that's what he told me he was
Dexter.
doing.
I mean, Dexter and Bird, of course, but that feel he got from Prez and from Dexter because he wanted to sound like a tenor. He
Well, he
wanted
said President Dexter and Rollins because they were growing up together.
exactly.
And Sonny was a little more advanced. So
Harlem.
he said
Yeah,
that was it. And he said, "You're coming from, I hear Sonny and
yeah,
and President Dexter and you too." I said,
yeah,
"Oh."
yeah.
But tell me a little bit more about your circumstances with Jackie and.
Well, first got to meet him with Paul up at Hartford, and we a couple of times we went to the house. We watched the World Series one year in '78 at his house, and he had two boxers at the time. He had two boxers, and he would take them out in the backyard and throw the ball like I used to do with my dog when I was a kid. So
Oh, the dogs, boxer
yeah,
dogs.
he had two boxers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I got to meet Dolly, and just again sitting there in his living room from a kid that had all his records as a kid coming up. Man, he like I'm sure it is with you. These guys were big heroes to me, man. They were like
Yeah,
they were like baseball players, man. They were like Willie Mays and
absolutely. They
you
were
know.
Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Hank
Here I
Aaron,
am, here
Whitey
I am
Ford. Yeah.
sitting in Jackie, and he told the story about how he met Bud Powell and Richie Powell came into the music. Did he ever tell you this story?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he
And
didn't
he
tell
said
me that, but I've
he
read the
said
story.
I'm Bud Powell's brother, and Jackie said, "Get out of here,"
He didn't believe him.
He took him home, and Bud came out of the room and said, "What's the matter? You don't believe him? I'm Bud Powell?" And Jackie said, "I don't know what he looks like. I just know what he sounds like." And he started playing. And Jackie said, "Holy shit, that's Bud Powell."
That's Bud Powell. Yeah.
And Jackie kind of took a liking to him. He said, "Man, take your horn out. Let's play some, man." And that was, But anyway, so I years later, I got to do a couple of master classes for him at the college. You know what I mean? So he brought me up, and I'll tell you what, Bob, there was nobody more nervous at that master class than me doing a saxophone master class, and Jackie McLean sitting there. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I got to talk about, playing the tin. He was like, no, no. He goes, no, you got that big tenor sound, man. Like it reminds me of Dexter. I mean, these kids got to know about that. They don't know nothing about that, that sound. And so we got to be friends. It was really, and then of course he played a Vanguard. He'd do those 2 weeks at the Vanguard every year with
With
Cedar.
Cedar.
Oh my God, I was there. I was there every night practically.
Yeah, I went a couple times and caught that.
That was some of the best music I've ever heard in my life. Unforgettable. With Billy Higgins, Cedar and Billy Higgins, David Williams. And by Sunday night, it was up here. You know what I mean? The band, they just sounded so great, and I'll never forget it. So
Yeah, well, that
those
was.
those are great memories, man. Great.
Yeah,
I really miss him. He's one of those guys I really miss. I really miss me going to hear those guys. Certain guys, certain guys, Bob. You know how it is. You just miss them, man. You
you
just
do. I know. I mean, there
you know
are. I got that with Sal Nistico and Junior Cook, and
Clifford Jordan and Clifford
and Art
Jordan.
Farmer. I mean, there's a big list of people I miss now
Clifford Jordan.
at
And
this age.
yeah, that's one of the
Jackie
guys.
McLean's story, though.
Yeah.
I even went. I had a week in Paris with Walter Davis Jr. and a French drummer and Pierre Michelot.
Wow.
And it was 2 weeks at the gig. The first week was Jackie with Walter and Pierre
Yeah.
and AT Arthur Taylor. And I was early in Paris, and I went down, a couple of nights and just listened to them. I didn't even sit in. I just wanted to hear Jackie and Walter together. And
I think I heard a bootleg of that. I heard there's a tape floating around somewhere of that. I think that Art Taylor and what'd you say, Walter was it Bishop Davis?
Walter Davis.
Walter Davis, yeah. No,
Yeah.
what year would that have been?
That would have been 1988, maybe
Oh,
89.
I know that must have been incredible hearing that.
It was wonderful. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
When we did this alto concert with the six altos.
Yeah.
This is one of my fondest memories. Is we all had features, with six altos.
Sure.
So we only played three tunes with the six altos.
Together.
Everything else was individual features or duets.
Yeah,
Not duets, but two altos in the rhythm section.
Sure. Break it up.
So my feature was Embraceable You.
Nice.
And just a quartet version with Walter Davis Jr. and Percy Heath and Roy Haynes.
Wow.
And Jackie was playing old folks with C sharp. They did a nice
Nice.
duet on and then various things.
Yeah.
So Jackie had that perpetual sneer on his face. He had that tough look, like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
like that kind of
I
thing.
remember. Yeah.
And Frank Morgan and I had actually had a kind of run in a little while before in Italy, an unpleasant scene. But for this concert, it was all about the tribute to Alto, tribute to Bird, to Charlie
Yeah.
Parker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All that stuff was going to be water, or in this case, a
Yeah.
tsunami under the bridge. And you
Yeah.
know, and Jackie was sort of our official straw boss,
Right.
and Jackie and Phil Woods were there, and so I thought he's looking at me, and I get off the bandstand with Embraceable You, and I got this beautiful standing ovation,
Yeah.
and the spirit was really there, and
Right.
and Jackie sneers at me and says, "You come with me," and I'm going, "Oh no, I must have done something. Maybe he sees that I don't like Frank Morgan. I've been trying to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe something's wrong. Uh-oh." Because he takes me backstage.
Yeah. Yeah.
He takes out a Marlboro, and he offers me one, and we both start smoking a cigarette. And he says, "I got one thing to say to you, and I'm only going to say this once. I'm never going to say it again.
Yes.
You better be listening to it." And now I'm really like, uh-oh. He says, "You are a bitch, man. You can really play." He said, "You as good as any of us up there tonight." He said, "But I don't know if you believe that. You have to believe, I wonder if you know that." I said, "I didn't say anything." He said, "So what I want from you is anytime you may doubt yourself, anytime you may have a little trepidation or doubts,
Yeah.
you just remember that we had this conversation and that Jackie McLean told you that you are a motherfucker."
Wow. That's
And
boy. You can't buy that with money.
nope, I mean, that was,
That's one of them. That's one of them moments you'll never forget, man.
I was shocked
Yeah.
and not to mention very pleasantly pleased because I had anticipated something else altogether.
Wow. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You know,
You'll always have that. They can't. No, they can't take that away from me.
they can't do that. Yeah, it may not make baseball money, but that
Because
was the equivalent
money,
of Mickey
no,
Mantle
you can't buy that with money.
telling me I could play
That's
baseball.
one of them. That's one of them. That's one of those moments, man.
Yeah. So we mentioned Clifford Jordan. I was gonna say you must have.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's Clifford Jordan, man. One of the and Harold Vick and Clifford Jordan, two guys. Two guys nobody ever talks about them anymore, man.
I never got to know Harold Vick. I heard him a couple of times and he was
They
great.
Clifford Jordan, every time I didn't get to know him well. I mean, I get to just see him around. It says again, Bob. It's like these guys were I held these guys in such awe. I didn't want to even approach them. You know what I mean? I just, I had this kind of sense that they were on a whole nother level. I didn't want to even, felt like I was bothering them if I would want to talk to them. But Clifford, I know Clifford's wife, Sandy. I'm sure you know Sandy Jordan.
Oh
Clifford's
yes.
wife. She's beautiful. And again, I could probably sing all those Clifford Jordan records, man. He was a real storyteller, man. Talk about telling a story, man.
Yeah, he really did. He was
Just beauty. There was so much beauty in his playing, and just knocked me out.
Yeah, he did have that, and he was a very funny,
Yeah,
quirky kind of cat too.
very.
He had
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
like I asked him once what he thought of Wynton Marsalis
yeah.
when that first came out. He said, "Well, I'd like to lock him in a room with a big bag of pot and a stack of Kenny Dorham records."
That's we're talking about what the doctor ordered, huh?
Yeah, and he was,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I had the same feeling And a lot of the time, the only way I met these guys or got to know them was I found myself at jam sessions, like after
Yeah.
hours and this kind of thing,
Yeah.
on the bandstand with them. Like I didn't have the courage. I would never have walked up to them
Right.
and introduced myself or anything.
No, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't even have occurred to me. You know, you mentioned Cleopatra's Needle. I had a night, same thing. I wound up at Cleopatra's Needle one night with Idris Suleiman. You remember Idris Suleiman?
Yeah, I used to talk to him on the phone.
He was in town to play with with that Joe Henderson concert at Alice Tully Hall. He was in the big band where
Oh,
they played he was playing the fifth trumpet part, and we wound up at Cleopatra's Needle, and then we wound up palling around all night. We wound up at another guy's apartment playing Tad Dameron tunes till 7 o'clock in the morning.
oh man.
That was, you know, same. You just happened to be in the session, and that's.
Yeah, well, he played trumpet and saxophone too.
He told me that. He told me that, and he had been on Lionel Hampton. He had been on Lionel Hampton's band He was on Lionel Hampton's band when Ahmed Cobb was in the band, and I played with Lionel Hampton for many years too in the '80s.
Yeah, I want to talk a little about that because I want to talk to you about Harry Connick Jr. and the
Oh yeah, of course,
and also some of your spiritual beliefs. You were raised. Were you from a Jewish family?
No, Italian, very close, very close.
Weldon could be either.
That's Irish.
Uh-huh.
My father was Irish. My mother was Italian. But you know what they say, Bob? Italian and Jewish, very little difference. 2 years of high school.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me Italians are happy Jews. Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah.
And
we didn't get into my illustrious career yet, though. Man.
Right. Well, that's what I want to start getting.
My brilliant career. We haven't talked about.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah. So that's where we got as far as now you're out of Rutgers.
Yes.
And now your first gig when you leave Rutgers.
Lionel Hampton.
Is Lionel Hampton, and you did that for a few years.
Oh yeah, I did that most of the '80s.
And how was that? And
it was the most amazing thing you can imagine to a kid coming out. You know what I mean? And I grew up like was one of my father's records was Lionel Hampton at that live at. That was a great moment for him too. I felt was especially happy, that he got to see his son. He got to hear me play with Lionel Hampton's band. That was a big
oh,
kick.
That's great. Your father died, I take it.
Yeah, he passed away in 1993. But being on the bandstand with Lionel Hampton every single night was just I don't know if you ever got to play with Hamp. He just he was in his 70s when I joined the band. I was in my early 20s. He was in his early 70s. But every night he played like it was going to be his last night on the planet, and his swing and his whole vibe was intense. And
I played one night with him.
Yeah.
Strangely, in Switzerland. He had a friend named Emil Gill.
Yeah.
Who was a piano player in I think it was Basel.
Yeah.
And I think his name was Emil Gill.
Right.
And they had been friends for a long time. And he threw a birthday party. I think the band was around somewhere in Switzerland, and he threw a birthday party for Lionel. And he hired me to play in the house band, which would be like him, and there was a drummer and a bass player and myself, and I think there was maybe a local trumpet player. I think it was just them, and they had a set of vibes there.
Mm-hmm.
And Hamp came for his birthday party, and I sat next to him for dinner.
Yeah.
And we played Midnight Sun and Flying Home.
Yep.
And I played a bunch of other tunes.
Right.
Without him, but he sat in on those two songs. We did play Midnight Sun.
Yep.
Which was beautiful because I got to play that with him, and then to play on the Flying Home thing was also gas. And he was very nice to me. Yeah. And he said to me that he'd love to have me on his band, but that I'd probably want too much money.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, he said, oh, the way you play, I think you're going to want too much money. And you seem to have your own gigs. I said, yeah, actually, that's true. You know, I said, but also I'm a terrible reader, and I'm not. You know what I mean? I've got no lead alto experience. So
Yeah.
whoever you've got, you're doing better than me. And he laughed, and
Yeah, boy. He was, but I'll tell you the great thing about him. That was my first trip to Europe. Was in '82, and for every year, you know, we played the Nice Festival, which at that time was a big time jazz festival, and
La Grande Parade de Jazz, it was
he was
called.
the Grand Parade. Yeah, I'm sure you played it many times. So, and of course, he was the superstar over in Paris and in London, and you know, in
Sure.
Germany. And you know, he always had to close the show, which meant that I had a lot of time to run around and hear all these other groups that were over there. And of course, there was always the session at the hotel, you know, at the park, wherever that hotel where everybody used to stay, the beach Regency. And I wound up at sessions with a whole lot of guys, as I'm sure you know. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I got to travel the world for the first time with him.
Who were some of the other cats on the band when you were
What's that?
on Hamp's band? Who were some of the other cats that you were
Oh,
traveling with?
Frankie Dunlap was still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Frankie Dunlap was the drummer. Arvell Shaw was there for a minute, and then he was gone. And there was a alto player named Thomas Chapin. I don't remember Tom Chapin.
I knew Thomas Chapin. Yeah, great player.
You talk about a great. We were
from Connecticut.
buddies.
Died very young.
He was a Hartford. He was one of Jackie's guys, and he was one of Paul Jeffrey's guys, and that's what we met at Rutgers. We were Tom and Jerry at Rutgers. You know.
Oh, really? That's funny.
We were very close. And he left a year before I did and went on Hamp's band, and then he got me on the band.
Because Sol Rubin and I were talking about Thomas.
Sol was a very good. Yeah, Sol was a very good friend of Tom's.
I heard him in Northampton, Massachusetts one night at the Iron Horse, this club up there, and he was playing, and he totally knocked me out. He really had an original way of thinking, didn't he?
He was cats. We could talk about him for a whole show. Believe me, man. He was a special. He was a very special music, inside, outside. You know, he could play all that inside stuff, and then of course he was big on the Knitting Factory scene too. You know.
Right. He could do all of that. He was. Yeah, he had a very broad view of things.
Oh, he was a very special guy. As I'm sure you know. Guys don't. Another guy left us too soon. We don't talk enough. We don't talk enough about him, you know. But he was definitely one of those guys. So yeah, he got me on the band. And then Dave Schumacher, another great baritone saxophonist, Adam Brenner, Doug Miller. Who else was on the band? Yeah, I'll tell you who was in the band when I first joined. Ray Draper was there. Remember Ray Draper?
The tuba player.
Yeah.
Was Joey Cavacino on it?
No, Joey played in Jacket's band.
Oh, okay. You couldn't play in both. I was told that. That's what somebody told me. If you played in one, you didn't play in the other.
Yeah, well, Jackie, he played a lot of years with Illinois. I don't think he ever did work with Ham. I don't think he did. Never worked with Gates, you know.
Was Melton Mustafa in one of?
I think that was a little later.
Okay.
But I got to know Melton. I played in a few things with him. Other than he might have been on Hamp's band. It wasn't long though. We weren't. I don't think we were there at the same time.
Yeah, we grew up in Miami together. We were all part of this high school all-star band with Bill Pierce and Mark Colby and Duffy Jackson and me.
Oh well, Duffy was on the band on Hamp's band.
Really?
Duffy took Frankie's place.
Oh,
there's a show right there too.
Definitely a one-man show, but Duffy was...
What a drummer, though, man. He was, boy, you talk about a big band drummer, he was...
Yeah, when he was 13, he was kicking the ass on of his father's big band in Miami.
Chubby, that's right, because we went down, what was it? I went down and played, it was a joint in Miami Beach, I played with Hamp a few times. It was on Collins Avenue.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, but and then Chubby came on the scene, you know. But Duffy was playing in the band at that time with us, definitely.
Yeah, and what was Frankie Dunlop like? I know that he was
Um,
they said he was a great mimic and
oh,
could have been a comedian.
was a natural. He was a natural comic for sure. Yeah, he was a natural. He could do impressions. He did all the jazz guys. You know, he did Lou Donaldson and Sonny Rollins and Monk, and you know, he became whatever story he was telling about someone. He became the person.
Wow.
He was a great guy. One of the cats. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite a band.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a good band. Really good band. Remember Barry Reese?
Very
Trumpet
well. I knew Barry also in Miami.
Barry.
He
Oh
was
yes,
down at the university, but
of
I met him
course.
through Dennis Irwin.
Right. They were very tight. Yes. Yes.
Trumpet and drums. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
He
Yes.
and
They were.
Dennis were brothers. Yeah.
John Marshall was on the band. Vinny
I knew John
Cusco.
Marshall very well too when
Yeah.
he was in New York.
Good. It was a great band. It was a great band. And hang on a second.
Wow.
So that was most of the 80s. That was about 82 to about 86, 87, 88. You know. Go ahead. I'm with you.
Oh, so you're married and
Yes.
any children?
I have two stepchildren. Yes. From a
Oh,
previous marriage. I got grandkids too.
wow. So
Yeah.
so you had so when you left Hamp, what was your next
Jack McDuff.
oh, okay.
Remember Jack McDuff?
Of course. Yeah, a lot of cats. That was
I was playing. Was that?
guitar players and saxophone players
Yeah.
went with that. What was that like, and who was on that?
I started working at a joint in Harlem called Showman's,
Oh, we all know Showman, sure.
which I played. I played there for about 30 some odd years. You know,
Do you still play there? It still
it's
exists?
it's no longer it didn't survive COVID,
Oh,
but I did play there up until the very end from about 1985 till it closed.
yeah. I used to go in there and sit in with Max Lucas and his son
And,
Nathan.
and Nate, sure,
Yeah, I used to
I knew
go in
them
and play with them. Max was like 90 something years old, and I'd
to
go
play
in.
his, to play his ass off, man.
Yeah, I would have a good time playing with them.
That was the last of the old Harlem organ joints. And
That's right.
there was a guy named Bobby Forrester. Do you remember Bobby Forrester? Played Hammond B3.
I
He
knew the
worked,
name, but I didn't know him.
he and I worked together for years. He was a great organ player. He worked with Ruth Brown most of the time.
Oh, well,
And
she was
but
great.
he worked with everybody. George Coleman loved him.
Ah,
Because George liked to do his key, go through the keys, and Bobby was just a natural. Could you follow him? He was one of those guys. So he got me ready for that. I joined Jack McDuff's band around 86, 87, 86, and I worked with Jack off and on till he passed.
uh-huh.
And so that was in the 80s. I worked with him quite a bit. Well, I worked with him a lot actually. Jimmy McGriff. I worked with Jimmy in the 90s.
Those were two of the top organ
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
I mean, and there was still a circuit, right? Like what they called the Chitlin circuit.
And Joey D. I worked with Joey D quite a bit too. Joey D. Francesco. So he was he, we were good pals too, Joe. Here's another guy you talk about you miss. Boy, I miss him. That's for sure.
Yeah, I never met him. I was off the scene pretty much.
Oh man.
But he was quite great. I mean, his organ
Was,
playing, trumpet playing was nice too.
and he started playing tenor too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was starting to cook on the tenor. He's one of these naturals, Bob, one of those kind of guys. He just kind of picks it up. It comes real natural to him. Man, he was getting the sound.
Yeah, like Iris Oliver, Jay Thomas, those guys, they just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Connick. I joined Harry Connick in 1990.
How did that come about?
I met him. Actually, I met him first in New Orleans, when I was down there with Ham in 1984, he was still in high school, but he was already working gigs around town and stuff, as a kid.
Uh-huh.
He's been playing since he was like 8 years old. I think he's been working in them joints. Another one of these, he's a natural, he could play and sing. It's great, really, really, really. And
Very talented man.
he came to New York. And actually joined Ham's. He played piano with Ham for a very, very short time. He was a piano player when he first came to New York. Ham gave him a job, and he was a piano player. But I think he was already signing with Columbia then. He was already making the deal with George Butler, and he had one record that came out. And we were riding on the bus one night, and he said, I'm thinking I'll be putting my own band together pretty soon. You think you'd be interested in joining my band? And I said, yeah, sure. You don't think about it. And the next thing I know, a couple of months later, he's on Johnny Carson, with the night show. And he had this hit record with Harry Met Sally. And not long after that, Ben Wolf called me up. And he said, Harry's putting a band together on the road. We're going on the road. We're going out for a couple of months.
Who called you up, you said, and told you this?
Was that?
Who called you?
Ben Wolf.
Oh, Ben Wolf.
Yeah. So that was the middle of June of 90. And basically I stayed out on the road with that for the first time. Basically 3.5 years, I basically were on the road. I mean, he was pretty hot in those days, Early 90s, he was the band was very popular, and we went all over the world and stuff.
How old were you then?
I was in my early 30s.
Early 30s, right?
Yeah.
And who else was on the band?
Dave Schumacher, my buddy, on baritone. Leroy Jones, the great trumpet player from New Orleans.
Oh, I've heard about him.
Leroy Jones and Lucian Barberin on trombone. Great. Lucian's family, he's from the famous Barberin family. His uncle wrote, they wrote Bourbon Street Parade, and they're one of those New Orleans royalty families.
Is Leroy Jones, the trumpet player, still with us?
Yes, Leroy Jones, great trumpet player.
He's still around?
Oh yeah. Shannon Powell on drums. Russell Malone was in the band. Russell Malone, who I actually first met when he was working with Jimmy Smith Russell worked with Jimmy for quite a few years before he joined Harry. Brad Lely on alto, Ned Gould.
I knew Brad, Ned, sure.
Yeah, it was a great band.
So this was a big band, yeah.
Big band, oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I still work with Harry. We just finished, he just did a big show at the Met, a Cole Porter show, which he wrote all the arrangements for, which was really, really great.
Oh.
So he's not as busy as he was back in the day, but I still go out with the band.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine person.
Oh, he's great. He's great. He's a great. People don't realize what a great musician. They see him on the American Idol and on TV, and he's acting. He's a first class musician, man. I mean, can write, can read, can write, can arrange, plays his ass off. He's a natural. A natural.
Well, I think he did a great thing. A lot of people that wouldn't normally have gone near jazz and were frightened by it or this and that. He was one of those people that made it a friendly thing.
Yeah.
Through Harry, they got connected.
Exactly.
They started listening to maybe other people like
that's
Sarah Vaughan.
That's the way that happens. Yes, exactly right. Yep.
Somebody carrying on that tradition in a real way.
Yeah.
Was great. And so, I've always admired him. And then there was Joey DeFranco. Joey D had a big band as well that you.
Yeah, Joey D. We did a couple of runs at Birdland with the big band, and then I recorded a few records with him over the years, and we got to be buddies through Macduff actually, because Jack loved Joey, and Jack and Joey did a record together. And that's where Joey and I got to be buddies,
With two organs?
Yeah, they did a record together for Concord way back in the day. And So yeah, I got to work with Joey quite a bit over the years too. You know.
And then you do the Harry Connick TV show when he had his own.
Oh yeah, that was hey Bob, that was a good gig, man. That was a nice gig. That didn't last. That lasted two. That ran about 2 seasons. I could have used 2 more seasons of that. I would been. I'd be straight. You know.
And
That was a fun. That was fun though. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
oh, that sounds well. You've had a very illustrious career. It's been great that you've been, steadily employed and
Yeah, and I still, I like I got my own. I made a bunch of records on my own, and I lead a couple of different groups. I got a couple of organ groups. I got a quartet, a sextet. It's just I've been lucky, fortunate that we're still working, Bob. We're still working, baby. You
yeah.
know, we're still swinging.
Yes, that's good to be doing that. Unfortunately, I can't perform anymore because of my condition. I can't be in crowds. I'm what they call high risk.
Are you able to play?
Oh, I'm able to play.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I'm getting a little bit shorter of breath. But I'm doing the string record with strings and
But
orchestra.
you're able to. You're gonna record, right?
Yeah, and in fact, I've recorded a lot of my parts already. They're doing it piecemeal, uh, putting it together. Isaac Raz, who's a great arranger, has written these
Yeah.
charts.
You got a good sax section. It sounds like.
Yeah, oh, they're wonderful, those three. And I'm yeah, I mean, and I mean, I can still play, and I still have sessions at my house.
Yeah.
People come over. You should come over one day. We can play with a rhythm section.
Oh, and anytime, man. I'd love to.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm
Yeah.
just going through a little bit of the first time I'm starting to feel a little short of breath and hard to play long lines.
Yeah.
That's just been recent in the last few months, so I don't know if that means. I mean, emphysema, COPD is a worsening condition. It doesn't get better,
No, it doesn't get right. I understand.
Uh,
You have oxygen. You got a tank.
yeah, well, I've got this.
Oh, you got hooked
I had
up.
a
Yeah.
tracheostomy. See, I talk through and play through this. If I take this out,
Oh, wow.
I can't say anything. I can't sing anymore because my larynx got locked in one place.
Oh, you can't scat. You can't scat anymore.
No, I can rhythmically scat,
Yeah.
but I don't even have an octave. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
no-
Yeah.
So I can't do that. And that is hard. Like when I'm teaching, I'm trying to teach people to scat. But, I might, boo, bee, do, do, bip, bip, do,
Yeah.
dee, da, dee, da. No, I can't get the precise notes, but I can
I
get the
got you.
rhythm.
You teach private students mostly,
I
or
teach private students, and I teach both in person if the student has his vaccinations,
right?
and I teach on Zoom as well, and Grant Stewart has this.
Oh, I've been hearing about this. I haven't been down there. I've been hearing about the school. Mags told me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me a couple of classes because I can
Good.
have as much as a quintet in my house if they're all vax. So I actually have a couple bands that Grant has sent over that that I teach from home, and
Good.
they actually come here in person. But so I do that, and I'm writing my memoirs, and I'm writing a new book on. I have this book that when I was in the hospital a couple of years ago, I couldn't play for 4 months, so I started to practice in my head. That's the other thing Stan Getz. We were talking about one thing Stan Getz taught me. He taught me this muscle right here was not how your embouchure should be. You kind of make it push it out.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he told me that you should learn to practice in your head because he would practice a lot of time. He'd be traveling from the time he was 15 with Jack Teagarden, and he couldn't just get your horn out like in the movies
Right.
and play on the bus.
Right.
So you had to make everything happen in your mind.
Nice.
So while I was in the hospital, I thought about things that I would practice, and then when I got home, I started to, during baseball games, I would take, because there's a lot of inertia, especially in pitchers' duels.
Yeah.
When there wasn't anything happening, I'd just take my notebook and start writing down these little exercises.
Nice.
And Isaac Raz came over one day and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, oh, I was watching the ball game and I write down these exercises. He said, can I look at it? And he looked at it. He said, you realize you've got 300 exercises here and you haven't repeated one. I said, he said, you should make a book. So I
He's right.
did that, and then Isaac took it and put my stuff on the computer, and then we organized it, and then
Right.
we took it to Chuck Share of Share Publishing,
Yeah, share publishing. Yeah,
and
yeah,
he
yeah.
made a book of it.
Good.
And now I'm working on another book, which is more my improvisation method. I don't really have a method. I mean, I have things that I do and show people,
Yeah.
and I'm writing it with a good friend of mine who's a teacher at Berkeley for a long time, named Ed Tomasi. And
Nice.
Eddie and I are writing this other book, which is sort of a summation about, what it takes to, what you should practice and a way of thinking to become a jazz musician. So the book is called Serious Fun,
Nice.
Developing a True Jazz Conception. And that book's about 2/3 done. And my other book of my biography, memoir slash,
Yeah.
is also going to be a talking book or an audio book, they would call it, as well. I have someone working on it that way, and that's the book called Children of the Night. So I'm working on those things, and
All
I can
right.
still play, And
Staying busy. Good, 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 man.
you told me you heard me when you were in high school.
I did. I'm telling you, man, with Chet. I heard you with Chet, man.
Yeah, that makes me feel so old now when people tell me that. But
Yeah.
it's cool. How old are you now?
I'm 67.
Oh, that's right. We're not that far
Yeah.
apart.
No, we're not far apart. How old are you, Bob? You're
I'll be 73 this month.
73. Okay.
Yeah, March
Who's
22nd.
your? I got an important question.
Yes.
Who's your team? Baseball.
Oh, well, I was always a Yankees fan.
Ah, okay.
Even growing up in Boston,
You were a Yankee. You were a Yankee fan, and boy, how did that
I
happen?
was a Yankees fan in Boston because all Boston had when I was a kid was Ted Williams.
So you probably saw Ted Williams then, huh?
I not only saw Ted Williams, but my parents brought Ted Williams to my house one night.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, my dad was.
How did you get to meet all these guys?
I was 5 years old, according to my mother and father. They said that my mother was very pretty. She looked like Kim Novak when she was thin, and my dad was playing in this band at a place called the New Ocean House in Swampscott, Mass, which we lived around the corner from that, pretty close.
Yeah.
And it was different entertainers would come in, and somebody was there, and Ted Williams was in the audience one night, and he saw my mother sitting alone, and he walked over and started to schmooze my mother.
Oh, okay.
And my mother explained to him that she was the wife of the trumpet player in the band.
Yeah.
And Williams was polite, and backed off from but he still sat with her for a while. And then my dad came off the stand and they talked. And he was a music fan. He liked dance band. He liked swing music.
That's what I heard. That's
And
what I heard. Yeah.
well, Ted Williams and swing. I guess no. I mean, anyway.
Was your father a baseball fan?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they explained they had this little kid that was crazy about him, that was like 5 years old because I was walking around all the time. At that time, I was a Red Sox fan, and
Yeah.
Ted Williams was my hero.
Sure.
And I vaguely remember my mother waking me up and saying, "Ted Williams is here," and meeting him and him signing a baseball for me.
Wow.
And I don't remember much more than that, but I do vaguely remember meeting him.
Amazing.
And,
Amazing.
But I was a Mickey Mantle fan, and the Yankees.
I got you.
Like the Yankees in 1958, 59,
Yeah.
when I was 6 and 7 years old,
Yep.
they were the team, man.
Of
So
course.
you
Sure.
had to love them. I mean, Maris, Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, Elston Howard,
Yep.
Tony Kubek, Bobby Richardson, all
Sure.
those guys,
Sure.
so they became my hero team, and
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Red Sox. I always rooted for Williams, but and I would hope the Red Sox would do well.
Yeah.
But my team was the Yankees.
Yes.
I wanted to just to close this up.
Yeah.
It's interesting for me to understand how people were raised,
Yeah.
raised spiritually, and how they've continued to or practice any kind of or not, what kind of spiritual beliefs or practices or things that you've in your grown-up life, in your adult life, what, uh, how do you say, yeah, where would you, you were did you grow up in a conventional Catholic upbringing?
Yeah, pretty much. I made my my communion and my confirmation, a pretty basic Catholic upbringing, but we weren't every day. I mean, we weren't every Sunday Catholics. We were pretty loose. And of
Right.
course, as I got older, I got further. I was never a big church. Organized religion kind of Catholic type of person, and it's only been, you're young and you think you're going to live forever, and you do crazy stuff, and I really didn't pay too much mind to the it only becomes when, as I've gotten older, and of course music in itself is such a spiritual thing. The connection that you make with people and through music is to me is where the spiritual connection is, for
Yeah, I
me.
mean, I think Bird had it right when they say he listed on his on the birth certificate of his daughter, who unfortunately passed away pre father's religion. He said devout musician.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny, as you get old, at least with me, as I've gotten older, I've become more sort of aware of the spiritual thing. I don't know if it's because I've lived a little long, because you've gained some experience. I'm not I tend not to take things for granted as much as I did when I was younger. You know what I mean? I seem like I was in a much bigger hurry to do things when I didn't pay enough attention when I was younger to that end of it. And I got to know some of the older musicians would pull your coat, and they'd say, "Listen, I got to take your side. I'm going to tell you something." Sort of like what Jackie did for you. They drop something on you, and some of the older guys would do that for me. Paul would do that for me. Paul Jeffrey. I was young and crazy a lot of times, and he would try to tell me stuff that I wouldn't pay attention to. Now that I'm older, I see what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And just being more aware, just being more spiritually aware, and try to do the right thing, and try to be a little more considerate, and try to be think not, I like the saying, not thinking less of yourself, but just thinking of yourself less.
That's not thinking of less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Try
That's a
to
nice way to put it. How'd you
try to
you figure
try,
that out?
try to be a little more, what I mean.
That's great, Jerry.
Make time for some try to make time for others, you know what I mean? It's a little, so just a little bit,
It's
so
sort of a
but
golden rule, but another way to put it.
but
I like that. Not
Bob,
thinking
my
less of
wife.
yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Yeah, how about that?
I like
but
that.
but it's like my wife, like I tell my wife now, certain when I got to be 60, something about reaching the age of 60. I don't know, I get emotional about things now. I cry at the opening of the shop right now.
The opening of the shop, right?
I get emotional about everything makes me cry now.
Yeah,
I don't
I cry when
understand
they
that.
open a shop, right? I say soon people are going to be stealing from it. They're going to steal from it. Oh,
I get sentimental about everything now. I don't know what that is. So,
yeah, it kind of happens a little bit. I understand that.
you know,
My grandfather got very weepy as he got older, and I hope that I
yeah.
can be like that. But
Oh man, I wish, I think about my grandfather was a real old school Italian from East Harlem, man. And another guy he lived to be 93. He was strong to the end, and his men sharp to the end, man. He was a real character. I wish I had, there's stuff I think about now. I wish I could tell him, but that's life, I guess, right?
yeah, that is. But yeah, it's one time I asked Sonny because we had been through a lot of discussions about various things.
Yeah,
That Sonny is, that we've, I would say, what do you think of the Rosicrucians or, you
yeah,
know, uh, various, Krishnamurti. Sonny turned me on to Krishnamurti.
yeah.
And so I had asked Sonny about something. Have you ever checked out? And I said something, and he said, Bob, this is Sonny. Don't you know I've checked out everything?
Yeah, he has. I know he has. Yeah.
You know, he kind
Yeah, I
of looked.
remember he went to India, right? Didn't he start?
Yeah.
He was very deep into that. Yeah, yeah. He would always say, you got to be a good person, and I didn't. Again, he would say that to me, and I would think, oh, he's just trying to be a nice guy, and this and that. And then now I know, I years later I know what he was trying to say.
Yeah, I had the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing. Well, I think we're here. We're kind of out of time, Jerry.
Man, Bob, I can't tell you what a kick this was for me. And I'm such a fan. I've been a fan of you for so long and a fan of the podcast. So I can't thank you enough for having me on, man. It's a real
Oh, thank you, Jerry. It's been wonderful, man. It's been great to have you. I mean, what a number of things. I love doing this show for that reason, that people like
yeah.
you and I, at sessions, knowing each other in music, we don't really get to talk to each other like this very often,
No,
if at all.
it,
And
it's great. It's great. It's great. So I'm forever grateful. Thanks for having me on, baby. I
well,
really appreciate it. And I'll be watching. I'll be watching.
oh yeah,
I'll sending those cards. Keep those cards and letters
keep
coming
those
in.
cards and letters
All,
coming in.
all you folks
Dean
watching,
Martin.
send them some money, man. You got to keep it going.
That's right. We collect pictures of presidents.
Yeah,
Um, like
exactly.
Soupy Sales.
That's a yeah, right. I remember that, man. I
Yeah,
remember
I remember I collect
Soup,
pictures of presidents.
Soupy Sales. Well,
Yeah,
he was very hip, man.
he was. He had Clifford Brown on.
He used to hang out at Birdland.
Really,
Yeah,
I
I
believe it.
saw I saw him a few times there.
Anyway,
Thank you.
we're gonna say goodbye. I'd like to thank Jessie Kaiser for all that she does, and of course thank our guest, the fabulous and wonderful, illustrious. I don't say that sarcastically. He's all those things. Jerry Weldon, and I'd like to remind you to those of you watching, please give us a like and subscribe. It's just a click, a couple of clicks. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, we did a little analytical analysis. And we found that very encouragingly, that 50% of the viewers who watch us are becoming subscribers. And this is, as I said, very encouraging, because right before that, a week ago, it was only it was 85% we're not subscribing. So now we've gained this percentage, and it's just a little thing for you. It doesn't cost anything. It's completely free, and it does a lot for us, and we do appreciate it. So we thank you very much. And once again, I'm Bob Mover. We've been enjoying our company, the company of the wonderful Jerry Weldon, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Jessie Kaiser. We'll see you next time on The Real Side.